Take a second, dear viewer, to examine this text conversation between myself and a dear friend of mine that occurred 2 months ago to the day. This was the exact moment that I decided to flip my TV over to Netflix and try a show that I'd heard a lot of buzz about, but never gotten around to due to my underground rare animal smuggling ring. The show was called Arcane, and well, now how can I describe my feelings about it?
This is a piece of art.
Whatever you've heard about this series, I can personally assure you that it is that good and a mile better. I will never be able to say enough good things about this show. But in honor of the finale's 1 year anniversary, I'm going to try. I'll do my best to keep it light on spoilers, but if you want to go into it blind, which I highly recommend, then you should go and do just that. Otherwise, take a hefty dose of shimmer and hear me out on why you need to watch this thing at your earliest convenience, or if you have already, relive some of the ecstasy. Arcane happens in the steampunk city of Piltover. On one side of a bridge is the topside, where wealth and security cradle those fortunate enough to be born within. Below this and across the bridge lies the troubled Undercity, a world on life support and sustained by skullduggery and looking out for number one. Bad blood between the two runs deep, even more so after a failed revolution a few years prior. For now, though, there is a shaky, distrustful peace. Our story begins with 4 kids from the Undercity as they attempt a thieving job on the topside based on a friendly tip. When it goes sideways, the crew's leader, Vi, has to get help from her adopted father, a bartender named Vander. He was one of the 2 minds behind the revolution, and now wants to keep things in the Undercity as civil as he can. Alas, the topside is not letting it go. For you see, the kids stole from the lab of an up-and-coming scientist named Jace, who was experimenting with powerful and dangerous stuff. And as it happens, Vi's little sister Powder lost track of it. Now that it's come to light, Jace must either defend his work to the city council or face serious consequences. Tensions build between Piltover's enforcers and the denizens of the Undercity until enforcers enter to find and arrest the 4 kids and deal with anybody who gets in their way. What nobody knows, however, is that another force is at play. Unfortunately for everybody, a chain of events resulting in the collapse of anything the Undercity had resembling order goes off right then.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Skip ahead north of 5 years, and you're looking at a different world. Silco, the other founder of the Doomed Revolution, dominates the Undercity as the kingpin of a massive criminal enterprise with his adopted daughter Jinx acting as his top agent. He's still licking his wounds from failing to create what he calls the Nation of Zon and a bitter falling out with Vander, and is working towards reinvigorating the fight. Jace and his cohort Victor have ascended to the heights of Piltover's society, the potential of which is not lost on any number of self-serving politicians looking to get on his good side for their own ends. Vi is just getting out of prison to lead a cop named Caitlin to Silco's empire, but her ultimate motivation is to find and reunite with Powder. The big question looming is whether or not the two halves of the whole can work together to patch things up. Can the city reconcile? Can the sisters? Is there even a point in trying? Obviously, there's a lot to keep track of with this one, but it is so worth it. If it sounds like I just spoiled the start and end of the entire thing, believe me when I say that I have barely scratched the surface. Allow me to elaborate. Where shall I even begin with this show? The animation is breathtaking. Seamlessly blending 2D and 3D styles often in the same shot, it is chock full of lively characters and settings rife with detail. The explosions of colors and lack thereof complement each other and what's occurring in the story. The characters are so well rendered that you can't help but be in awe even if, like myself, you don't know the first thing about animation. I've seen people more in the know than I am pick it apart and they're just as impressed. For crying out loud, they're more expressive than most actual humans I've met. Its style is instantly recognizable and you could never get it confused for anything else. Looking at it, I can say that it for sure took inspiration from Into the Spider-Verse, but Arcane's appearance has its own identity. A stellar one. All this from Fortiche. I'm still reeling from the fact that the studio that made this also gave us this. It boggles the mind, guys. A major draw of the animation is the highly stylized music sequences that unfold. In the first season, they average just above 1 per episode. That average goes up in the second season by a percentage I can't be bothered to calculate. You could argue that they act as a bit of a crutch at times, but they give so much character to this show that, honestly, I really don't care. Whether it's Vi taking on Silco's goons in the Undercity or the introduction of the boy savior, they always bring something unique to the table. I love it. I also have to give props to the choreographers. Most of the time, I don't really care about action sequences personally, but Arcane had me invested in each battle and chase. Watching them play out, you understand why it took the creators 6 years from initial planning to bring this show to life, and to put it bluntly, it's just friggin' awesome. One scene on the bridge late in Season 1 especially brings together action, style, and meaning beautifully, set to a banger of a song with a line that went straight to my Instagram bio. And speaking of, this might be the only TV series I can think of where the soundtrack actually outshines the score. Nothing against Temple and Seaver, their work on Arcane is fine, but just eclipsed by song after song perfectly tailored to the scene. Especially the theme. I know it's cool to hate on Imagine Dragons because whatever, but I did and do love their stuff, so I was glad to see them get a slot. Even if you don't care for them, you have to admit that the frantic string version of Enemy is perfect for the opening credits. On that note, I'll give a shout out to the title sequences. I did prefer the Season 1 statues, but the Season 2 version with the live characters holds its own. Not once did I skip the intro. All things added together, you become so invested that you completely forget you're watching pixels blink on and off. The style of Arcane is unique and proud of what it is, and it deserves to be. But as we all know, no amount of lipstick makes a pig any prettier. Is the writing worth it? Yes. One word, but it conveys so much. Arcane tells a brutal, infinitely engaging story that does not hold your hand, nor does it need to. Not a second of space was wasted. Every scene built on the developing story. It trusts the audience to be able to follow along while asking them to reach for the more complex parts. What's really great about this show is that except for Silco, argue with a wall, he was a bad guy. Nobody is 100% right or wrong. Piltover faces a difficult situation and everybody wants to solve it. However, each character approaches it from a different perspective, meaning that their ideas are as diverse as their experiences. It allows for thoughtful, nuanced conversation to take place and lets viewers pick up on things unsaid. This is the pinnacle of what writing can be. The writing is also structurally interesting. For one thing, it spreads the time jumps and act structuring differently than most shows would. Any danger of this being jarring is quelled by settling just enough for it to feel natural, while leaving enough open-ended to keep viewers glued to their seats for the next episode. It's difficult to pull off simultaneous narratives under the best of circumstances, but Season 1 achieves this effortlessly. I'll admit that I was inclined to DNF when Episode 2 fell into the cliche of showing the events of the pilot from a new perspective, but stick with it and I'll promise you'll be glad you did. By now you might have noticed that I'm more interested in characters than anything else, and boy do Arcanes pull their weight. The dynamics between the various players allow you to see different aspects of who they are without having to spell it out. The protagonists you can root for, the antagonists you can root against. The people in this story are layered, flawed, and nuanced beyond anything I thought modern writers were capable of, and it just makes the whole thing feel that much more grounded and honest. This show accomplishes what is easier said than done and provides a cast of main characters that you can actually care about. One in particular stands a cut above the rest in my mind. By now it goes without saying that Jinx is not only the best character in the entire show, but one of the best characters in recent history. Silco, Vi, and Vander are my favorites, but Jinx is objectively at the top of the A-list for character writing. According to people who have actually played it, the corresponding League of Legends character falls squarely into the so-called manic pixie dream girl trope, which is one that I can't stand to begin with. Not so in Arcane. Jinx's struggle to decide whether to reunite with the remainder of her estranged family or go all in on being the destructive power she views herself as, peppered with vicious hallucinations from a past that haunts her every step and desperation for things to make a scrap of sense, is nothing short of heart-wrenching. If nothing else, at least this is worth watching for. However, there are two caveats to all this. The first is an obligatory content warning. A quick check of IMDb user reviews will tell you everything you need to know, and if you can get past that stuff, it really is an incredible story. Second, and nobody can agree to what extent this is true, but the consensus is that Season 2 is not as good as Season 1. I have slightly strong feelings about it that I might get into at a later point. Here, though, I will leave you with that so as not to ruin any part of the experience for you, dear viewer, you lucky duck who has the opportunity to experience this show for the first time. Even so, I recommend that you check this show out. The story is told over 12 hours of runtime with 9 episodes in each season, released in 3 acts with 3 episodes apiece. It's no coincidence that I'm releasing this video at 12 AM PST on November the 23rd, you know. Each episode is only 40 minutes, but the amount and quality of storytelling the creators managed to pack into each needs to be studied at a university level. The finale of the first season absolutely socks you in the gut in the best way and leaves you desperate for more. While it's probably true that the second season doesn't quite hold up, it's still better than a lot of other stuff that came out even before film and TV became troubled. Some recent movies and shows have gotten popular because they're the best option. Arcane got popular because it's good on its own merits, and for that, it earns 2 thumbs up from this armchair expert. Point of all this being, I still refuse to play League of Legends.